LinkedIn presents.
Howdy, welcome to another episode of the Next Big Idea Daily, where we bring you big ideas from the latest nonfiction. Today, let's talk about one of the most divisive, emotionally fraught topics there is, money. How do you feel when you spend money? Do you ever feel a twinge of guilt when you swipe your card or hit add to cart? Maybe you've tried sticking to a budget so you can spend without worrying, but budgeting can feel like dieting, restrictive, joyless, and impossible to stick to. Enter Dana Miranda, author of You Don't Need a Budget, Stop Worrying About Debt, Spend Without Shame, and Manage Money with Ease. She joins us with the method for ditching the shame, embracing your intuition, and discovering a refreshingly human approach to money management right after this break.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Jessie Hempel, host of the Hello Monday podcast. Start your week with the Hello Monday podcast. We'll navigate career pivots. We'll learn where happiness fits in. Listen to Hello Monday with me, Jessie Hempel, on the LinkedIn Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Dana Miranda. I'm a financial educator and journalist and creator of the Healthy Rich newsletter, where I write about money for misfits. Today, I'm going to share 5 key insights from my book, You Don't Need a Budget, Stop Worrying About Debt, Spend Without Shame, and Manage Money with Ease. Insight number 1, budgeting doesn't work. I've been writing about personal finance for almost 10 years, and basically every piece of financial advice, whether you're trying to pay off debt or save for a big purchase or start investing, starts with make a budget. It started to sound to me a lot like what we see in healthcare, where every piece of health and wellness advice goes back to losing weight. In both cases, we're defaulting to restriction through a restrictive diet or a restrictive budget. We know from decades of research in the medical field that weight loss doesn't always yield the health outcomes people want, and dieting doesn't work, either for weight loss or health improvement. So I wondered what the research would say about budgeting. The most surprising thing I found was how little research actually exists into the effectiveness of budgeting. Every single piece of financial advice starts with make a budget, but almost no one is asking whether the practice can improve your financial situation. I did find a few researchers, though, who noticed that gap and wanted to find out how effective budgeting actually is. The truth I learned about budgeting contradicts everything the personal finance industry has been teaching. A 2018 study at the University of Minnesota found that budgets are unsustainable and they don't reduce your spending. Through one experiment, they found participants got less enjoyment out of spending when they tracked their budgets closely, and this effect was stronger for people with less money. And that lower enjoyment meant people were less likely to continue budgeting in the future. They wrote, "Tracking a budget may reduce the enjoyment associated with spending by increasing pain of paying through a tightened link between costs and benefits." In another experiment, the same researchers found budgeting encourages a splurge and restrict cycle exactly like the binge and restrict cycles we see with diets. People may use perceived progress as an excuse to take a break and may splurge a little, the authors wrote, giving budgeters little net benefit. Another report from the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada in 2019 shows how ineffective admonitions to make a budget can be, and that budgeting doesn't improve your well-being. The agency led a pilot to encourage people to make a budget, and they followed up 18 months later. Despite the program's sole purpose being to get people to start budgeting, only about 1/3 of participants who left the program with the intention of making a budget followed through and developed a budgeting habit. Then the study asked budgeters whether the habit helped reduce their financial stress. Just 8% of budgeters said budgeting helps reduce their financial stress. Budget culture is like diet culture for your money. Our cultural relationship with money is based on a set of rules meant to help us get rich, like paying down debt, investing, starting a side hustle, and above all, making a budget. Financial advice and education tend to boil down to these three tactics. Restrict how you use money, whether by spending less, saving more, or buying different things. Shame yourself for financial moves, including spending and accumulating debt and lack of investment or savings. Greedily hoard wealth by avoiding taxes, accumulating property, and opposing social safety nets. I call this approach to money budget culture. It's a set of values that, like diet culture, is based on restriction, shame, and greed. This cultural mindset undergirds all the ways we think, teach, and talk about money. Just like with dieting, the practice of budgeting is the centerpiece of budget culture. But budget culture is much more than just making a budget. You don't have to engage in budgeting to be engulfed in the beliefs around it. These beliefs pervade most of our conversations about money. In the same way diet culture has us constantly critiquing our bodies and seeking the perfect diet or treatment that will finally fix them, our culture of money has us convinced we can find the right, most perfect way to manage money if we work hard enough. Despite a slew of systemic barriers, if your finances don't look like you want them to, budget culture convinces you it's because you're not doing something right. The personal finance industry has contrived a fantasy world where it's possible for regular people to overcome tremendous financial obstacles with just a few simple steps and make real progress toward being rich. Budget culture upholds that fantasy as an achievable ideal and the basis for understanding money. Even as individuals continue to fail to realize the fantasy, our approach to money feeds off of the never-ending pursuit of that ideal. Debt isn't a moral failing. So if you're not keeping a budget, how do you avoid spending money you don't have? This is the number one question I get when I tell people you don't need a budget. A belief that you can't trust yourself not to overspend is what drives a lot of people to start budgeting. But when you think about it, you actually can't spend money you don't have. So when people are talking about this idea of overspending, the underlying question I hear is, how do you avoid debt? The only way to spend money you don't have is to use credit or loans and take on debt. I argue that's not something you have to avoid. Debt is one of many resources available to you, just like income you earn from working, community resources you can tap, or assets you can leverage. Using debt is a way to expand your resources to live your life when you can't or don't want to expand your income or other resources. Choosing when and how to use debt and how to deal with it are financial decisions, not moral or ethical ones. We use shame in budget culture to keep people from accessing debt, which only serves to perpetuate unequal access to the life those resources could buy. Carrying debt doesn't make you a bad or irresponsible person. Believing that is the first step to using this resource to live the life you want. Carrying debt also won't destroy your life the way budget culture makes you believe. You can understand how debt products like credit cards and loans work, and know the consequences tied to various ways you might deal with them. Having that knowledge lets you decide how to deal with debt in a way that supports your life and goals. Money is meant to be spent. Budget culture trains you to believe spending is bad and you're a failure for giving into it. But spending money is often the right choice for you because it's necessary to nourish you, create connection, and foster joy. Letting go of the shame you feel from spending is vital to overcoming budget culture, but so is letting go of self-satisfaction you might feel from restricting. Succeeding at restriction might make you feel like budgeting works for you, but it's just the flip side of shaming yourself for spending. Letting go of the perceived control a budget gives you might feel scary because budget culture has taught you not to trust yourself around money. Once you've rejected the premise of budgeting, you have to learn to trust yourself to spend money without destroying your life. Trusting yourself to use money without fear is what I call conscious spending. We know setting restrictive limits on how to use money for things you love and value is impractical. My goal with money management isn't to create new kinds of restrictions or give you another difficult chore to manage. A budget-free approach is about being able to say yes more often when you're wondering whether or not to spend money. But budget culture's lionizing of restriction has probably messed with your ability to know how you truly want to use money. Trying to reject budgeting without a way to trust yourself could throw you right back into a cycle of splurging and restricting. To avoid that cycle, I share conscious spending practices in the book to help you relearn to trust your gut. Practicing conscious spending is about yielding to your innate wisdom to guide your money moves instead of looking to an outside set of rules to determine what you should do. Just about any mindfulness practice that speaks to you will hone your self-awareness toward conscious spending. Some experiments you can try include creating checkpoints that encourage you to reflect on spending decisions before you make them, like a reminder note in your wallet. Using a spending diary to temporarily note how you're spending money and what it adds to your life. Imagining your ideal day and how you can use money to support it. Noticing your hormone cycles and how they impact your decision-making. Doing yoga or other somatic exercises to learn to listen to your body. And practicing meditation or prayer to become more mindful. What you own isn't truly yours. The advice about money we tend to receive throughout our lives focuses on how to get more and give away less of it. Budget culture treats money as the end goal itself, so all of the available information and advice is focused on having money in the end. That misses the point of using money to live a life. It also ignores the fact that if you're truly tapping into your intuition and understanding your place in a community of humans, generosity with money is a must. Unfortunately, in our culture, thinking about giving money away can raise feelings of fear and scarcity. And budget culture messaging amplifies those feelings and reinforces them through budgeting habits and an individualistic mindset. Budget culture makes generosity feel foolish. A scarcity mindset makes you see lack and competition instead of the enoughness of abundance. Our cultural approach to money trains us to believe we never have what we need and there's not enough to go around. Our culture's focus on individuality and individual responsibility makes it hard to be generous and easy to ignore someone else's need. You can begin to break down that belief by first understanding that nothing is truly yours to begin with. The difference between seeing scarcity in the world and seeing abundance is understanding that whatever you own isn't truly yours. It's just in your care for now. Money is a tool to shape the life and world around you. When you hold it in your hands, you hold the responsibility to contribute to that world in a life-giving way. Don't fear scarcity when you give money away or use it to benefit someone else. Their gain isn't your loss because there was never a difference between your money and their money in the first place. Look for opportunities to give money away, including through direct gifts, charities, and taxes. We can embrace joy, abundance, and generosity in our relationship with money by letting go of the scarcity mindset budget culture has instilled in us.
Thank you, Dana. Okay, listeners, get yourself a copy of You Don't Need a Budget at your favorite bookstore. And if you could use some ongoing help with money management, or frankly, with just about any aspect of your life, head on over to your app store and download the Next Big Idea app. It's got thousands of big ideas from hundreds of authors, all designed to make your life better. I'm Michael Kovnat. See you tomorrow.